You recognize it's a rights issue both ways. Why do you fall on the pro-life side? The pro-choice side justifies itself because it claims you're defending your right to bodily integrity. How do you justify? This is a great question, not least of all because I think it's sincere. This TikTok user is consistently dispassionate and sincere, and I really appreciate it. I do see abortion as a conflict of rights issue. I see it as a conflict between the right of a woman to refuse use of her body and the right of a child to not be unjustly killed. If you are pro-choice and your first response to that is that a fetus isn't a child, understand you're missing my point. In this video, at least, I'm not trying to convince you a fetus is a child. I'm trying to explain to you how someone who does see a fetus as a child would justify an anti-abortion position. I justify the pro-life position because I think bodily rights are very important, but I don't think they're absolute. And I think not killing innocent human beings is also very important. I'm weighing those two things against each other. It's very rare, the circumstances in which society would say, no, you can't refuse use of your body. I recognize that. It's also very rare the circumstances where society says it's okay to kill innocent human beings. Almost all abortions are performed on healthy embryos or fetuses carried by healthy women resulting from consensual sex. You don't have the right to make a person depend on you to live and then kill them for it. There are two main responses to this usually. The first one is, what about rape? And the second one is, oh, you're anti-sex. So what about rape? Yeah, I think rape is a harder case. I think the pro-choice arguments for rape are much more persuasive. I think that it is still immoral. I still think you're taking an innocent life, and there are arguments to be made why you shouldn't, but should it rise to the level of it being illegal? I think that's a harder case. The bodily rights argument actually makes some kind of sense when you're talking about abortion in cases of rape. It doesn't make any sense for the 95% plus abortions that aren't for those cases. And then there's the accusation, well, this proves you're anti-sex. No, man, it doesn't. I don't care that sex happened to be the action you took to make someone depend on you to live. It could be anything. Some people have done the thought experiment of, you have this button and when you press it, it gives you some sort of reward. I like the idea of McDonald's fries because they're delicious. You press this button, you get McDonald's fries. You enjoy doing that. There is some infinitesimal chance that if you press the button, there will be a baby that you're responsible for. But it's very unlikely. And you take precautions to minimize the chance. So you keep pressing the button, you get McDonald's fries, and then one day, one of the times you press it, you get a baby. Should you be allowed to kill the baby because you don't want to be responsible for the baby? No. And it has nothing to do with sex. It has to do with the fact that, first of all, it's bad to kill human beings. And second of all, you're ignoring the role you played here that you didn't have to. Suffice to say, I do think it's a conflict of rights issue. I think both the rights we're talking about, right to refuse use of your body and right to not be killed, are very important. I think that the pro-choice side assumes a lot to assume right to refuse use of your body is just literally always more important than the right to not be killed. Actually, I'll go further. I think that most people who make bodily rights arguments, they actually just assume the fetus isn't a person and that's why they're comfortable with abortion. It's not really about bodily rights. It's about the fact that they think the entity they're killing is not a valuable human being, so there's no conflict. That's what's really happening. Because most pro-choice people, if you ask them if they think abortion should be legal at any stage for any reason, most of them don't. Yes, some of them do. We always get comments, well, I do, now what? Okay, so you do. Most of them don't. The vast majority of the world and the majority of Americans think there should be gestational limits on abortion. To me, that implies that they think there are limits on the right to refuse use of your body. And outside of those limits, they think you should not be allowed to kill a human being so that they don't use your body, specifically your biological child, your offspring. I also reject the idea that this is granting special rights to fetuses that no one else has. It's a universal right we're asking for. I think that you should have had the right to not be killed when you were in utero. I think that I should have too. My mom should not have had the right to kill me when she was pregnant with me. I shouldn't have the right to kill my children when I'm pregnant with them. Someday when they grow up, if some of them get pregnant, they shouldn't have the right to kill their children when they're pregnant with them either. I think every human being who had to, by definition, go through this vulnerable and required life stage should have had the right to not be killed when they were in that life stage. So it's a universal right, not a special one. Anyway, if you listen this far, thanks. That is, in a TikTok nutshell, why I think that the right to bodily integrity does not justify the vast majority of abortions.